Hey, good morning from Kansas City. Welcome to SportsBeat Live, where we talk Royals, whether they have the best record in baseball or the longest losing streak. Of course, those have happened. Both of those have happened in the season's first 40 games. We talk with the folks from the Star who know the teams best. Let's see who is here today. Beat writer Lynn Worthy is checking in. So is columnist Sam Mellinger. Good morning, guys.
What's up?
Good morning.
Hey, and we talk Royals with you. Please send us your questions and comments and join in the conversation. Big thanks to the University of Kansas Medical System as our presenting sponsor. You will hear from KU Med later in the show. So 40 games in, the Royals are 18-22. That projects to 72 or 73 victories, about where many people believe this team was going to be when the season started. But how they have gotten here is pretty wild. Best record in baseball at the end of April, but starting, I think it was May 2nd, they started their 11-game skid. That was the longest for the Royals since 2012. They finally broke the streak in the first game of that doubleheader against the White Sox. But when they had a chance to win the series, they blew the ninth inning lead and Chicago walked off. So just like this season, the Royals gave us the good and the bad in Sunday's game, plus us a little added bonus, some confusion. So Lynn, you were there. Let's we probably shouldn't spend a lot of time talking about one game, but it was the latest game, and there and it did leave an impression, certainly with Mike Matheny. Take us through the just describe the final play, what you saw, and then we're going to hear from Mike Matheny in just a moment.
Sure. And it was one game, but it was also the context of that is, they just snapped the losing streak. They were looking like they had a chance to take 3 out of 4 from the White Sox, who had the best record in baseball going into the series, who they hadn't taken the series from since 2019. And so they go into the ninth inning with the lead. They turn to Wade Davis, which I have a feeling we'll get to later. And Davis has to face the top of the lineup with a 1-run lead. Tim Anderson doubles. They move him over. And then there was the single from Moncada scores him, so that's a tie ball game. And Davis gets 2 strikes on Abreu and hits him. And then you've got Yermin Mercedes, who's been looking like freaking Babe Ruth here since he's in his rookie year. Hits a single, and Moncada tries to score, and Witt, who I think this was still maybe his second game in the outfield, throws him out at the plate. And on the play, Abreu goes all the way to third, which actually I didn't realize it at the time, but Abreu was running so hard that there was something was going to happen on that play, because if Moncada ran through a stop sign, but if he hadn't, they were going to have an issue because Abreu might not have been able to stop before third, but that's just beside the point. But he ends up on third, and so then with him on third, Davis, wild pitch, ball in the dirt. Cam Gallagher blocks it. Abreu breaks for home. Gallagher picks it up and decides to try and dive instead of throwing away Davis, which is probably the smart play. And in guaranteed right field, the press box is not behind home plate, so we're actually behind like first base. So as I'm looking at it, I didn't think that he actually had got him in real time. I couldn't tell, but I didn't think he got there in time. It wasn't until the replay that I realized that he got there in time. It was a matter of whether or not he got the tag on there. The Royals certainly believe he got the tag on there, and Abreu definitely didn't get the plate until his hand came through, which is after his body sort of slid by. But he was ruled safe. The replay review said that the call stands, so they did not say that it was, confirmed by video evidence. It was stands. And the Royals were so sure that they were going to get another chance to play in extra innings that Whit Merrifield was already on deck, had his batting helmet on, was taking practice swings when the officials said safe and walked past him. And Whit was like, "What are you talking about? Game over."
Yeah, so much to talk about just in that sequence. But let's start with the call itself. And I tell you what. Let's go to Mike Matheny. Here's what, Lynn, you said that Matheny didn't agree. The Royals certainly didn't agree. Mike Matheny absolutely did not agree. And here's what he had to say.
There's a lot that happened in that game, and I just have to make a point, the fact that if we're going to use video replay, there needs to be some accountability. I just walked in here and had 2 different camera angles with this guy out, tagged before he ever even touched the plate, and very obvious. So I don't know what they're doing, if they're backing each other up, whatever it is, it's wrong. Game that hard played, that well fought all the way to the end, and they've got the opportunity to take that much time. And, from appearances, looks like they don't want to bring them back out on the field while they're here with this crowd, and it's just wrong. And something needs to be done about it. Go ahead with your questions.
Mike, did they give you an explanation? Did they say he missed the tag, or what did they tell you?
They didn't say anything.
Annie?
Mike, where did you see him make the tag? Was it as he was coming in, or did he go over the plate at first?
He got him. He didn't go over the plate, never did touch it until his hand came through later, and the tag was already placed on his jersey. You can see the jersey move when he tagged him in the body.
Okay, a couple things I really liked about that. First of all, go ahead with your questions. That's the most demonstrative I've seen Mike Matheny, and and he suggested that the umpires are backing each other up. Sam, what's happening here?
So I know that it's 2021 and nobody's got time for nuance, but here I go anyway. I don't think it was that obvious on the replay. I think he may have tagged him. I think he may have not tagged him. I didn't see any clear image of just an obvious tag. So to me, whether the call on the field was safe or out, that's a situation where it's probably going to stand. So I guess it's a weird example in my eyes to make a really good point, which is accountability, 100%. What he said there, I thought the most interesting part of that to me was I can't remember exactly how he said it, but I don't know if they're backing each other up, basically implying umpires protecting umpires, right? Which I think absolutely happens. I looked this up, they track everything, and at least on Baseball Savant, they've got for last season, only 44% of challenges overturned calls. To me, just logically, that's a really low number because teams are not challenging umpires give you a second, to decide whether you want to challenge, and teams aren't challenging until they've seen that replay a couple times and feel pretty sure about it. So to me, that number should probably be high. Like teams are incentivized not to challenge. Some exceptions, teams are incentivized not to challenge unless they're pretty sure. So that number should be higher. It just seems logical that umpires are protecting umpires. About a month ago, I asked Mike Matheny that exact question. It was I can't remember, his Phillies Braves or Phillies Mets game. Do you remember there was a play at the plate that was just,
yeah, I remember you asking it too. I was waiting to see if you were going to bring that up, but I remember you asking.
Yeah, and he was it was probably an unfair question, to be honest with you, just because it's like, here's something that happened in a game that you have nothing to do with, and here's an opportunity to get fined. Your comments, I don't. But he basically said, no, I don't believe that happens. I really don't. These guys are measured and they've got bonuses and all this stuff on the line. But the feeling's a little bit different when it happens to your team, right? But I do think there should be more accountability. And I think there should be an independent board. I don't think it should be umpires judging the calls of umpires. I think there should be some sort of independent board. I know there's complications in that, but some unintended consequences. But I think that would help. It would help appearances, if nothing else, because 44%, there's a lot more of these calls that should be getting overturned.
Yeah, somewhere between those 2 camera angles that he supposedly saw, that he had to change a heart there, Sam. I was
Right.
thinking about that when you asked that, and he took the very diplomatic approach to answering your question whenever that was a couple of weeks back. But there was no diplomacy after the game on Sunday.
No, there was. And look, like I think Mike is protecting his guys. He's standing up for his guys. There's some sort of, it's not showmanship, because I think he really genuinely believes that his team got screwed there. But there's just an element of that's what the manager's supposed to do. He's supposed to stand up for his guys, because I guarantee you in that clubhouse they were pissed, and they were probably throwing things and saying words that we can't on this show and all that. So I think Mike, there's some just kind of standing up for him. But the broader point, I mean, absolutely, there should be some more accountability. And I'll say this: the accountability should go both ways. there should be accountability for people that complain about correct calls as well. It needs to go both ways.
Well, a couple things. I thought it was interesting that Mike Matheny said that that he thought the tag was on the shirt, but Cam Gallagher said he thought he got him on the leg. So there was a little bit of a conflict of where the tag, if there was a tag, and the other thing, the tag on the shirt. I did see Abreu's jersey, have a little bit of a movement, flap, and but I couldn't tell from the replay whether it was the tag or not, or just in the motion of him sliding. So, as Lynn said, look, a difficult call. I would have been surprised if it was overturned, but it was the circumstances that the Royals have found themselves in and put themselves in that made it all the more difficult. And one of those circumstances was using Wade Davis in a leverage situation in the ninth, basically because there just weren't many options. Lynn, were there? I mean, what was when Greg Holland went more than one to get him to the ninth? They were down to like Wade Davis and who else?
Well, they had Tyler Zuber had warmed up before Davis warmed up. So no, and Matheny didn't actually, obviously he won't say before a game who's down because he doesn't want the other team to know. But you just look at it and you say, well, Barlow had pitched back-to-back days, and I think the second of those back-to-back days he had thrown over 30 pitches. Stallmont had pitched 3 out of 4 days. And so those two guys obviously would have been the guys that you would go to in a high leverage situation. Zuber has been most of this season sort of the guy that he goes to get you out of an inning to get to the next guy. So like, a starter is having trouble. They need to get out of that inning and then bring in the guy who's either going to go long or to, sort of shut it down for an inning plus while they try and get things righted. That's what they've been using Zuber as for most of the season. So I think Matheny sort of looked at, whether it was Zuber. I'm thinking you probably, and you're still only a run away from extra innings. So there's going to be one guy who you sort of save if you have to play in another inning. So I'm thinking, Irvin Santana was probably available, hadn't pitched in a couple of days, but that was going to be if we got to go extra innings and we need somebody to just keep going, that he was probably that guy. So you're down to Zuber, Jake Newberry, who had just been called up, who had some tough outings this year. Davis, who, I think as Matheny alluded to in his post-game comments, they sort of leaned on the fact that he'd done it before. And then I'm not sure if Jake Brentz was available or not. I think just looking by workload, you would think he probably was, but I don't know if there was some, whether there was analytics or something like that they were like, yeah, we're not going to go to him today. So it was, probably Zuber, Newberry, Davis, and, maybe Brentz, but I'm thinking that it probably wasn't because I feel like they might have gone to him. But of those guys, the guys with the experience and the guys who had done it before, obviously was Davis, and that's what he went with. But Davis he'd had some rough outings this year. I mean, his ERA was above 7, I think, when they brought him in.
Yeah, I remember in spring training he had a couple of good weeks, didn't he, Sam? I mean, there was some Wade Davis of old and surprise this year. Got my hopes up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the period that I was there, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it was, must have overlapped with like the best that Wade Davis was. I mean, the ball was just popping out of his hand and nothing was going straight. He looked really good. And you kind of thought, okay, like maybe these last few seasons, because he hasn't really been effective since like 2017 or so. I mean, it's been a while since he's been really good. And yeah, I mean, he's just, I go back to this too, like with the thing at the plate, 50-50 call not getting overturned. I've said this before, like complaining about officiating is the ballot of the loser. And, nobody ever like blames or, credits a win, like, wow, we really got lucky with some calls there. To me, I think the Royals deserve to lose that game. If that's what you put in there, if your guy in the 9th inning goes double, sack bunt, single, hit by pitch, wild pitch. I mean, you don't deserve to win that game, and that was accumulation, right? Like Lynn just referenced it. That was, 7 games in 6 days, right? And they've got, you would have loved to have Zimmer in that situation, right? Or maybe even Jesse Hahn, or, like there's some guys that are just not available that you would have liked to have had in that situation. So that was always going to be a tough game for them to win when their best 2 relievers are are out. And this is, starters need to go longer. They need to get some guys healthy. They need to get some more depth in that bullpen. I mean, that's just, there's a lot of things going against them. I get the frustration, but the umpires did not lose that game for the Royals.
Hey, look, I'll throw this out there that Holland did when he pitched the 8th. He faced 6 batters, right, and walked 2 of them. So if Holland is a little more efficient in the 8th, Wade Davis isn't starting with the top of the order in the 9th.
That's a good point. Yep.
Maybe Wade Davis gets 8, 9, and 1 instead of 1, 2, 3, and it looks a little different. So, and the other thing is, and this is easily explained, but Josh Stallmont pitched the 9th inning of a 5-1 game the day before. So you're thinking, why does he use Stallmont in that? And it's, look, when he got up to throw, I think it was a safe situation. It was 4-1, and you would use your closer then, and you're not gonna get them all sweaty and then not use them and get someone else up really quick. So
dry hump is the term you're looking for there, Blair. You don't want to dry hump the guy.
Is really that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
I thought it was. Yeah, you're right. Write that down. Yeah.
Let's call.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not prime time, but that's okay. All right. Hey, with that, good time to take a break. And when we come back, there are some positives that came out of the Chicago series. We'll talk about those as well, and look ahead to what's coming up next for the Royals.
The Kansas City Royals lineup is backed up by the region's strongest team in healthcare, the University of Kansas Health System. We both suit up with one goal in mind: to win. The University of Kansas Health System, official healthcare provider of the Royals.
Back with Sam Mellinger and Lynn Worthy. We're talking Royals, of course. Hey, you know what, Lynn? I'll take 3-run homers from Salvador Perez in back-to-back games all the time. He had a really nice series. It was 9 RBIs against the White Sox, or maybe it was the road trip, 9 RBIs. But he seemed to rediscover, and maybe the most shocking plate appearance was he drew a walk.
Yeah, he's at I believe he's at 4 or 5 already this season, and he had 3 in the. I guess really only played 37 games last year, but so Salvi, the patient Salvi is by comparison, not by comparison to himself, not necessarily by comparison to say Carlos Santana, but the more patient Salvi we're seeing, and then the home runs. But I mean he's he just moved into 6th place on the Royals all-time list. He's been, one of the guys you can count on that lineup, at least recently, and definitely on this road trip. But that was definitely encouraging to see. The offense had struggled through that losing streak. Runs were hard to come by. Hits with guys in scoring position were non-existent for a stretch there. So when you get that big 3-run home run, that first game that broke the losing streak, they were already up. I think it was 2-1. When he hits the 3-run home run and gives that fist pump coming around first base. And it was sort of like, they're going to win this game. Like, it was after 11 straight losses, like, it was, you could tell Salvi was feeling it. I asked him about it afterwards, and he just said, every time you hit a home run, you're sort of pumped up. But then he did say, and then in that circumstances that we were in, it's like, 11 straight, you start to smell a victory, especially in a 7-inning game. He was feeling it.
Right, 7 innings were big for the Royals in that game, and then you talk about his patience as a hitter. Was the next 3-run homer? Was it off of Giolito where the ball was about a foot over his head? And he went to
the first one was Giolito. The other one was it was off of I think it was Cease. Right? Oh, Rodon. That's right, Rodon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
96 out of the zone and off the plate. And and in the post game, I remember asking him, I was like, Salvi, normally I would ask if you were looking for a certain pitch. I said, but I don't know how anybody looks for a pitch in that spot in that situation. And he just started laughing.
That pitch is impossible to hit. It's impossible.
He did.
That's exactly the pitch because it was an 0-2 pitch, right? Or 1-2? It was 0-2.
It was definitely 2 strikes. I know it was 2
Yeah.
strikes. And you
I
see
mean-
Rodon's reaction afterwards too. He's just
Yeah.
watching Salvi around the bases like, what in the
I mean, if Rodon could, if he could have paid Salvi $1,000 to swing at that pitch, he would have. You know, like there's no way if he hits it, it's going to be a pop out to behind first base or whatever, and he hits it 360 feet or whatever. That was Salvi. Salvi can get you outside the zone. And I remember I've probably told this story before, but like the Royals coaches had been really working on Salvi to just lay off terrible pitches. Like, they've given up an inch or two outside the zone, he's going to swing, but just a foot or two outside the zone, lay off those. And then the 2014 wild card game happened, and he hits that pitch. I'm like, he's gone. He's gone.
My way. We're going to do it my way.
This is out of our hands at this point.
Lynn, you mentioned the starting pitching. It came back. It has come back a little bit. Some really, really encouraging effort by Mike Minor, and Keller was the starter when the streak ended. So Brady Singer threw well on Sunday. All of this is important now because of the news yesterday. Tell us what happened yesterday.
Yeah, the Royals announced that they were putting Danny Duffy on the injured list with a left forearm flexor strain. So if you just go by, the timing of the injury list, he's going to be out at least this week. And flexor strain, unless it was about as mild as can be, you're thinking it's probably going to be weeks as opposed to a week that you're going to have him out, because it was backdated. So that's why I say, I think they put it back to the 14th. So in theory, it could be a week when he's eligible, but I wouldn't expect that he's going to be off as soon as he's eligible. So, which makes it interesting what the starting rotation is going to look like. Now we know before that they had already announced that Chris Bubich was going to pitch Tuesday's game and Brad Keller Wednesday. They actually have a little room here to manipulate things because they had the off day on Monday, an off day on Thursday, and another off day coming on Monday. It'd be interesting to see if they push things till Sunday, because you still have, you have 4 starters, and then depending on what you want to do with Jake Junis, if you put him back in the rotation, then you have your 5. If that comes at the same time that Kyle Zimmer comes off of the IL, then maybe he goes back into the bullpen, and that sort of solves itself. But we're not 100% sure that Zimmer's coming off. Mike Matheny said the other day before all this that things were going in the right direction for that, but they haven't made that roster move yet. So yeah, it's there. That's more onus in the starting rotation without the guy who had been the workhorse, the guy who had thrown into the 6th inning, and I think 5 of his or 6 of his 7 starts, he'd gone at least into the 6th, and he'd gone 6 full, and I think 4 of those starts, and had 3 quality starts at least. I think through 5 starts this season, his ERA was under 1. This as much as everybody thinks Keller is going to be the ace and he was the opening day starter, the guy who'd been anchoring the rotation is Danny Duffy, and now he's gone.
Yeah, he was the Royals pitcher of the month for April. 194 ERA, 48 Ks in 41 2/3 innings. And seems like every game he pitches, he's surpassing someone on the Royals' career strikeout list. So tough. Look, he's been injury prone, right? It seems like he goes through some kind of injury every season. But he's also a workhorse. Look, he's always around anywhere from 24 to 28 starts for the Royals, and he'll miss probably, as you mentioned, Lynn, he'll miss a couple maybe, but I expect him to be back, and hopefully when he does come back, he regains the form of the early season Danny Duffy. So, Sam, let me ask you this. So we started this show with the Royals on either end of the spectrum, the best record in April, and then the longest losing streak in baseball, all in 40 games. Can this team be good? It was really ugly in that 11-game losing streak. They lost in many different ways, but they won, in some heart-stopping fashion in April. Can this team be good?
I think so. And even through, it's weird to say that about a team, like you said, that's won twice in 2 weeks. now, right? But the Duffy thing is a big deal because the best way for them to get better quick is for the starters to go longer. That's really been killing them. You know, they've had just way too many guys go 2 1/3, or you know what? You just can't burn through pitchers like that, and especially, I think that Mike Matheny uses a lot of relievers anyway, which is not necessarily criticism. I mean, he's trying to win every game, and there's more of an urgency, I think, than there's been in the past. So it's not a criticism, but you know, those two things can't really coexist very well. You know, of using a lot of relievers, even if they go 6, but then also needing a lot of relievers because sometimes you guys go 2 1/3. So the Duffy injury is bad, and you know, but. On the other hand, like I keep thinking about this, and I know people are sick of hearing about it, but whenever Mondesi comes back, which should be a week or so, I don't know, he's going to drastically change the team. He's going to make them way better defensively. He's going to make them better offensively too. That's a guy that can carry the team for a couple weeks, you know, if he gets hot with the bat. Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be up at some point. And I'm not saying he's Mike Trout, but they will get more athletic. They'll get faster. They'll, you know, all these things. They're a team that should be getting better as the season goes on. Jackson Kowar, I would imagine, will be up at some point. You know, Alec Marsh is kind of a guy that I hear some things about. Lynn probably hears more or less, you know, but, you know, they've got some guys that they can bring up, you know, eventually. And that's what I keep thinking about here. And then also they really don't have, you know, I mean, Duffy, but I mean, again, there's not somebody that's like overperforming that's carrying them that you're expecting to go off a cliff. And if anything, it's the other way. And, you know, Hunter Dozier's, that secondary, you know, sort of the supporting metrics of contact quality and exit velocity and all these things just say that he should be hitting a lot. His numbers, his production numbers should be a lot better. So I believe that they're a team that can get better. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. The White Sox clearly have a lot more talent than the Royals. But yeah, I believe it. Despite the 11 games in a row, I do think that they can be a good team.
So there's another one in that category of somebody we certainly expect to perform better. One thing that's striking to me so far are the Minnesota Twins. Right now, with the worst record in baseball, that is hard to believe. And so, look, if not that the Royals own the Tigers by any stretch of the imagination, but based on the last time we saw Royals play Detroit, but you know, maybe victory opportunities await with the Twins that maybe the Royals we couldn't expect for the Royals, and that could at least when you're trying to come up with reasons why the record can be better or why they can outplay their winning percentage right now, that's at least one of them. So anyway, all right, you guys, I have really enjoyed this conversation today, and let's get out of here. Look, I want to thank Beth Welsh, our producer, and today's assistant producer, Candy Bolden, for being here. Lynn Worthy has a preview of the Royals Brewers series that starts tonight, 2-game set at Kauffman Stadium. That's on kansascity.com. Mellinger Minutes, also chock full of great stuff on kansascity.com. And Sam, we have surpassed the 1-year anniversary of the podcast, have we not?
We have, yeah, a few weeks back.
Congratulations, man! That's fantastic.
Been a wild ride. You know, like I say, like whenever there's a global pandemic, that's when you got to start your sports only podcast. It's the best timing to do it.
Absolutely. So, okay, you guys, and thank you for tuning in, and we'll do it again next Tuesday right here. Join us, and have a good morning.